Hi, and welcome to another episode of Darker Days Road Dark Iron, and today is another in our series of heroes and villains of Warmachine, and this time we're looking at Orsus Zoctavir. Now, Orsus Zoctavir, we know from previous editions, was a Warcaster for the Cador forces, though in the current edition he is now working for the Orgoth, and we're going to dig into why this is so. So Orsus was born in the north of Cador in a village, and that was around 553 AR. So this puts him in our current timeline somewhere in his 70s, and yet he is still going strong. So at the age of 10, he was already apparently quite a fearsome person. He survived a Tharn raid on his village, and he slaughtered a Tharn Ravager to avenge them. His sister also died at their hands. And after that, he was working as a lumberjack at a logging company of a local Kayaz. So a Kayaz is sort of like a mafia mobster type. So he was obviously quite powerful, working in that industry, and he also was kept off the conscription census, so he wouldn't have to serve as a member of the Winter Guard. His Alexei, his Bratia, who is essentially the head of that Kayaz, wanted to keep him working for just him and the gang. At the age of 14, he faced a rival gang who used a steamjack in their attack upon them. And it was at this time that Orsus came into his power as a warcaster and took control of this steamjack and used it against their enemies. Later on, Orsus became involved with a girl called Lola, and this is perhaps the one period of time in which Orsus, his mood, his rage was calmed, and so to be with her, he left the gang, left his job at the Bratia, and then he, just simply worked a humble living. However, Orsus was not to have a happy life. Alexei wanted Orsus to do one last task, helping to sabotage a rival lumberjack yard. When that had happened, when he went off to do that, it was all a setup, essentially. And then it's revealed that Orsus's own personal steamjack, he named Leica, the one that he took control of, its command keywords have been given over to the enemy, and his own steamjack killed his wife-to-be. This, of course, drove Orsus into a mad rage. He took an axe and he killed those who had done this. Orsus then disappeared from records until 583 AR, when he arrived in Kursk with his steamjack and another one under his control. And he enlisted into the army. His warcaster talents were obvious, and he was put into training by the Grey Lord's Covenant and sent to Cardoff, where he would further hone his skills and put to work in the 5th Border Legion. So he was given command, even though they could tell he was somewhat unhinged. Now, just a couple years later is when Orsus gains his moniker, the Butcher. So, just north of Boarsgate Keep, which is in Ord, there is a village. And at this village, the people there are ready to have decided that they no longer want to be part of Kador. They want to be part of Ord. And Orsus took it upon himself to crush these traitors. The local militia he slaughtered, and his own soldiers tried to stop him, and Orsus even killed them. And Corporal Luca Kratoff even and his Winter Guard had trouble trying to restrain him. This became known as the Boar's Gate Massacre, and even though Orsus was sent to trial, Queen Ainavana absolved Orsus of blame. He was apparently a true patriot to her, and in reality a weapon that she wished to direct at her enemies. Onwards we go. So it's 604 AR, and it's the invasion of Lael, and Orsus was involved in the fall of Redwall Fortress. He faced numerous Signaran soldiers, and yeah, you know, he's a berserker with his own warjacks, just destroying everyone in his path. He then, after Lael's fall and occupation, is sent to fight against Signar, and he slaughters pilgrims. So there are members of Kador who follow the Menite religion, and they were leaving the motherland to travel south to the Protectorate of Menoth because it's the centre of their faith. And the Queen ordered Orsus to remind them of who and where their duty lay. And they were slaughtered for it. So, knowing this, and it is to some disgust of Commandant Iris, who, you know, he dislikes this uncontrollable savage. They start orchestrating missions that they hope Orsus will die in. And he's sent south to fight against the Signarans, especially near Felig. And he just keeps coming back. Eventually, things take a turn. Kador and Signar are fighting over the Thornwood. They have to ally together, which for Orsus is a terrible thing, again. Even though they're allying against the invasion of Cricks, who have set up a Necrofactorum within the Thornwood. So again, he runs across... He's in the sights of Commandant Iris for being too much of a loose cannon. And, you know, he's involved in skirmishes and, you know, is found still alive by Sorsha Kratoff. Though, again, she is also, you know, distrusting of this berserker and leaves him to his fate. And even though he is, in one engagement, he is, you know, left dying, he somehow still survives, wandering the wilderness, only to return to the lands of Kador. Now, things also come to a head in different ways. I mean, Orsus, you know, with the alliance with Signar, that is put at risk. He confronts and almost kills Marcus Brisbane, who is a major in the Signaran forces. Again, Iris wishes to, you know, put Orsus on trial for misconduct. And after that immediate encounter with Marcus Brisbane, Sorsha has an encounter with Orsus, which also reveals how their paths have crossed in some ways. It turns out Sorsha's father was one of those murdered at Boar's Gate. And Orsus says he doesn't remember, which of course is horrific for Sorsha. So Orsus's fate, or at least his time with Kador, now is in its last years. As the Infernal Invasion begins, the now Empress Vanar is looking for ways to control Orsus. He is clearly powerful, clearly a great weapon, but is a loose cannon. Cannot be trusted. The fact he will turn on allies and murder them. So they find a girl called Branka who they believe might be Orsus's daughter, and so is a means to control the Butcher. And as Orsus then defends the Empress at the Kadoran Palace, as the Infernals attack, Orsus fights so hard, his axe is pretty much shattered. Just the haft of it remains. And his daughter, that he's trying to protect, is left dying. And Orsus now, seemingly realizing how the Kadorans and the Emperors have always been using him, leaves. He leaves, heads into the wilderness, never to be seen again. And is hunted down and eventually cornered, taken back to Kursk by the Grey Lords, who take him into the chambers of their mystic arcane research kind of facility. There's numerous items in there that are dangerous and of Orgoth and infernal origin. And he is chained to a fellax, shackled by it, with the Empress present, and then released into the far north to die, driven mad by this axe. The fellax is an item of Orgoth origin. It holds the souls of all the people it's killed, and those souls speak to you, driving you mad. But Orsus survives. 10 years pass, and he is in the northern wastelands. He is guided by this demonic fellax, and he arrives at the west coast of northern Kador, and there he sees the red sails of the Orgoth invasion fleet, the second invasion of the Orgoth. Now, he initially just flies into a rage, trying to slaughter their soldiers with just the haft of that axe. Not the haft of the axe, he has a full axe, sorry. He has his fellax. Because Lola, his old axe, has been completely destroyed at this point. So he's got this fellax, he's slaying them, but eventually it goes quiet, and a voice is heard in his mind. And then this person approaches him and speaks to him. This is one of the Orgoth war witches, and for the first time in decades, Orsus's mind is quieted, and he realizes he has a destiny and purpose and origin with the Orgoth. You see, the Orgoth have a means for reincarnation down the ages. They possess people born to their bloodlines. And this is who Orsus is. Orsus is of Orgoth blood. And so he joins up with them, because he's been prophesized to the Orgoth. He is someone they were expecting to find. And it's now with them that he fights. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Heroes and Villains of Warmachine. I think the next time we'll be looking at a character who is also one of the longer running characters in Warmachine's setting, and that is Lilith, a character who once was a Nis elf, who then is blighted and becomes part of and possessed by a shard of Everblight, and then later is changed and becomes one of the Chimera. So, hope you enjoyed this episode. Please like, subscribe, and we'll be back shortly with another episode. So, goodbye for now.